The next morning Ijena stood by the door, waiting for the sound of her mother's car. Mama Nkechi's visit couldn't have come at a better time. Her presence always seemed to bring peace and clarity. "Mama's here," Lota shouted, bouncing up and down at the window. He ran to the door just as it opened, and Mama Nkechi stepped inside with her signature wide smile. "My boy," she exclaimed, lifting Lota into her arms as he giggled. "Have you been taking care of your mama and papa?" "Yes, Grandma," Lota said proudly. "I'm Daddy's strong little man." Mama Nkechi laughed, setting him down and turning to embrace Ijena. "My child," she said softly, holding her tightly, "you look tired. But don't worry, I'm here now." Ijena felt the tension in her shoulders ease slightly. "Thank you for coming, Mama. It's been a lot." Konu stepped forward, greeting his mother-in-law with a respectful bow. "Welcome, Mama Nkechi. We are glad to have you." The happiness of her arrival pushed away the heaviness that had settled over the house. For a few hours, the family enjoyed her presence, sharing stories and laughter. But as the day went on, the weight of recent events crept back into the corners of Ijena's mind. After dinner, when the house had grown quieter, Mama Nkechi called Ijena to the living room. They sat together in the living room. "My daughter," Mama Nkechi began, her voice gentle but firm, "tell me everything. From the fire to Lota's illness, what exactly is going on in this house?" Ijena sighed, as she recounted the events of the past week. Her voice trembled as she described the fire, the poisoning scare, and the growing unease that seemed to cling to their lives like a dark cloud. She ended with Naomi's arrival, her tone laced with doubt. "And this Naomi," Mama Nkechi said, "why is she in your home?" "She had nowhere else to go, Mama," Ijena explained, though her voice sounded less confident now. "She's supposed to leave soon." Mama Nkechi's eyes held a trace of worry. "I see. But listen to me, Ijena. Be careful. I've been praying for you since this all began, and I believe God will see you through. But something about this Naomi troubles my spirit. Watch her closely." "I will, Mama," Ijena promised, though a chill ran down her spine. She wanted to believe the worst was behind them, but doubt lingered like a shadow. Later on in the middle of the night, Musa, the family's security guard, patrolled the grounds. It was a quiet night, with only the sound of crickets breaking the stillness. He was about to head back to his post when he noticed a figure moving near the side door of the house. He was shocked as he recognized Naomi sneaking out of the house in the dark. She was sneaking outside, her movements careful. Musa hid behind a tree, staying out of sight as he watched her head toward Konu's SUV. He watched her suspiciously, as she moved, wondering what she was up to. Naomi reached the car, looking around before popping open the bonnet. Musa pulled out his phone. He didn't know what she was up to, but because of all that had been happening, he felt he had to be extra careful. As he took several pictures of her, he noticed she was fiddling with something under the hood. After a few minutes, she closed the bonnet and hurried back inside. Musa's mind raced. He didn't know exactly what she had done, but he was certain it wasn't innocent. Determined to protect the family he had worked with for many years and who had always been good to him and his family, he saved the photos and decided he would tell Konu first thing in the morning. The next morning, Musa approached Konu just as he stepped outside to check on something. "Good morning, Musa," Konu greeted. "Is everything alright?" "Oga Konu," Musa said urgently, holding up his phone, "please, I need to show you something. Last night, I saw Madam Naomi sneaking out of the house. She went to your car and opened the bonnet. I took pictures." Konu's brow furrowed as he took the phone, scrolling through the images. His heart sank as he saw Naomi's unmistakable figure near his vehicle. "Are you sure about this?" Konu asked, though the evidence was clear. "Yes, sir. After she finished, she went back into the house. Without another word, Konu marched to his SUV, his mind racing. He opened the bonnet, inspecting the car with a growing sense of dread. His stomach churned when he discovered that the brake lines had been tampered with. Anger surged through him. This wasn't just petty jealousy, this was dangerous, malicious. His hands trembled as he closed the bonnet and turned toward the house. Konu stormed into the living room, his voice booming as he called out, "Ijena. Mama. Naomi. Everyone, come here now." The women hurried into the room, startled by his tone. Naomi appeared last, her expression calm but wary. "What's going on?" Ijena asked, her voice laced with concern. Konu held up Musa's phone, his eyes locked on Naomi. "Do you want to explain why you were tampering with my car last night?" Naomi blinked, her face a mask of innocence. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Musa saw you," Konu said sharply, his voice rising. "And he took pictures." "Stop lying, Naomi." Ijena's eyes widened as Konu handed her the phone. She looked at the photos, her hand flying to her mouth in shock. "Naomi, why?" Naomi's facade cracked. Her face twisted with anger as she crossed her arms. "Fine. You want the truth?" "Yes, I did it. And I'd do it again." The room fell silent as everyone stared at her, stunned. "I'm sick of watching you, Ijena," Naomi spat, her voice dripping with venom. "You parade around with your perfect life, your rich husband, your fancy house, your little brat of a son. You think you're better than me, don't you?" Ijena's voice trembled. "Naomi, I never." "Don't lie." Naomi snapped, cutting her off. "You've been flaunting your success ever since university. Well, I've had enough. I wanted to make you feel what it's like to lose everything." Mama Nkechi stepped forward, her voice firm. "Naomi, how dare you speak this way? After all my daughter has done for you, this is how you repay her." Naomi's eyes flashed with defiance. "Don't lecture me, old woman. You don't know what it's like to be overlooked, to feel like a failure." Konu stepped between them, his voice cold and authoritative. "That's enough. You've said more than enough, Naomi." Naomi glared at him before turning on her heel and storming out of the room, slamming the door to the guest room behind her. Konu turned to Ijena and Mama Nkechi, his expression softening. "Are you both alright?" Ijena nodded, though her hands were trembling. I can't believe this." "Mama, take Ijena upstairs," Konu said firmly. "I'm calling the police." While they retreated upstairs, Konu contacted the authorities, explaining the situation and providing the pictures as evidence. Within the hour, 2 officers arrived, searching the house and questioning everyone. When they reached Naomi's room, they discovered it empty. The window was open, and a quick inspection of the backyard revealed footprints leading to the back gate. "She's gone," one officer said grimly. "But don't worry, we'll find her. Do you have a recent picture?" Ijena handed them her phone, her hands shaking. "Here. This is the most recent one." The officers nodded. "We'll circulate this immediately. Until she's found, we recommend extra precautions." That evening, Konu made another call, this time to a close friend in the police force. He explained the situation in detail, and his friend quickly arranged for a police escort to guard the house. When the officers arrived, Konu gathered his family in the living room, his tone serious but calm. "We'll be safe now. The police are watching the house, and they'll find Naomi soon." Mama Nkechi placed a comforting hand on Ijena's shoulder. "My child, this is not your fault. Jealousy is a powerful thing, but God will protect us." Ijena nodded, though her heart still felt heavy. As she looked around the room, at her son playing quietly, her mother offering words of faith, and her husband standing strong, she knew that no matter what came next, they would face it together. And somewhere in the shadows, Naomi was running. But for how long, none of them could say. The days following Naomi's escape were a strange mix of relief and unease for Ijena and her family. Knowing the truth about Naomi's intentions gave them some clarity, but her continued absence filled their lives with tension. Until Naomi was caught, they could never truly feel safe. The police escort stationed outside their home had become a lifeline. 2 officers were always present, their presence a silent reminder that danger still lurked. They followed Connie to work, accompanied Ijena when she went out, and even kept an eye on Lotta's school. It was a comfort, but also a constant reminder of the threat hanging over them. Ijena had decided not to return to her remaining salon for the time being. She didn't want to risk the lives of her employees or customers. Instead, she spent her days at home, playing with Lotta and leaning on her mother's wisdom. Ijena, Mama Nkechi said one morning as they sat on the porch, "God has seen us through so much already. This too shall pass." "I know, Mama," Ijena replied, though her voice was heavy with exhaustion. "But until they find Naomi, I can't let my guard down." Mama Nkechi reached over, taking her daughter's hand. "We are stronger than this. You will see." It was a quiet Saturday morning when they heard the sound of loud banging outside. Ijena was in the kitchen preparing breakfast, while Connie worked in the study. Lotta played in the living room with his grandmother. The commotion at the gate startled them all. "What's that noise?" Connie asked, stepping out of his study. Ijena rushed to the front door, peeking through the window. Outside, a young man who looked scruffy and disheveled was shouting and banging on the gate. "Naomi! Naomi, I know you're in there," the man hollered, his voice filled with anger. The 2 police officers stationed outside quickly intervened, approaching the man with caution. One of them raised a hand to stop him. "Who are you, and what are you doing here?" the officer demanded. "I'm here for Naomi," the young man replied, his tone defiant. "She owes me money. I know she's here." Inside the house, Connie's expression darkened. "What is this about?" he muttered, moving toward the door. "Connie, wait," Ijena said, holding him back. "Let the police handle it." The officers detained the man, taking him aside for questioning. His erratic behavior and insistence on seeing Naomi raised immediate red flags. At the police station, the young man, identified as Sigan, initially refused to cooperate. He just sat in his seat, his eyes moving around the room as though searching for an escape. The officers maintained their composure, leaning on their years of experience to crack his defenses. "Sigan," one officer said calmly, leaning forward. "You came to the Konu's house, shouting and causing a scene. Now you need to tell us why." Sigan crossed his arms, his lips pressed into a thin line. "I don't have to say anything. I was at the wrong house, that's all. I thought that was my friend's house." The officer sighed, his tone growing firmer. "We know who you were there to see. If you don't cooperate, we'll charge you with disturbing the peace and trespassing. If you work with us, things might go easier for you." After a long silence, Sigan finally spoke. "Fine. Naomi hired me to do something. She promised to pay me, but now I can't reach her. I have been calling but she's not picking my calls. I came to the house because that's where I met her the night she gave me the deal." The officers exchanged a look. "What exactly did she hire you to do?" Sigan hesitated, his face a mix of fear and defiance. "She paid me to burn down that fancy salon. Said she wanted to send a message to someone." With Sigan's confession, the investigation took a dramatic turn. The officers pressed him for more information, and he finally revealed that Naomi had mentioned a distant aunt living in the city. He provided an address, claiming it was the only other place he knew she might be hiding. Later that evening, the police contacted Konu to inform him of Sigen's statements. Mr. Konu, the lead officer, said over the phone, "We've interrogated the young man who caused the disturbance at your house. He admitted to being hired by Naomi to burn down your wife's salon." Konu's grip on the phone tightened, his face a mix of anger and vindication. "Are you sure?" "Yes," the officer confirmed. "He also gave us an address where Naomi might be hiding. We are sending a team to investigate." "Thank you," Konu said, his voice heavy with emotion. He turned to Ijena, who was watching him anxiously. "They are close to finding her. Thank God, I can't wait for all this to be over. For us to get our lives back." "Don't worry, my dear, it will all be over soon," Konu said to her. The next morning, a team of officers arrived at the address Sigen had provided. The building was a modest apartment complex in a quieter part of the city. Naomi's aunt opened the door, her expression one of confusion as the officers explained why they were there. "Naomi. She's in the guest room," the aunt said, her voice filled with disbelief. "What has she done?" The officers moved quickly, finding Naomi inside. She was caught off guard but quickly composed herself, denying everything. "You have no proof," she spat as they handcuffed her. "This is a mistake." "We have plenty of proof, Naomi," one officer replied coldly. "You're under arrest." As they escorted her out, Naomi's aunt stood in the doorway, her hands covering her mouth. "I can't believe this." She said she just needed a place to stay. That afternoon, the police called Konu and Ijena to inform them of Naomi's arrest. "Mr. Konu," the officer said, "we've apprehended Naomi. She's in custody now and will face 4 more charges." Ijena burst into tears of relief, her body shaking as Konu wrapped his arms around her. "It's over," she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. "We can finally move on." With Naomi behind bars, the family began the slow process of rebuilding their lives. The oppressive tension that had hung over their home for weeks began to lift, replaced by a quiet sense of hope. One evening, as they sat in the living room, Ijena turned to Konu. "I think I'm ready to go back to work," she said softly. "Naomi tried to destroy us, but she failed. I won't let her win." Konu smiled, pride shining in his eyes. "That's my Ijena. We'll rebuild together." Mama Nkechi nodded, her voice filled with wisdom. "This has been a trial, but God has shown His faithfulness. Let this be a lesson, my daughter, always trust your instincts." As Lothar played on the floor, his laughter filling the room, Ijena realized they had weathered the storm. Though the scars would remain, they had emerged stronger, bound by faith and the unshakable strength of family. She was grateful to God for His mercy which had delivered her family, realizing finally what the dream she had before Naomi came into their lives had all been about.